Okay, let's start our class. We are continuing with the diffusion of the secrets of the Zohar Ha Kadosh, the book of Jewish mysticism. Today is March 25th, 2012, at the Yechiel Foundation. We'll continue with comments from
Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai
was the first to open the doors of mysticism to the world. Why? Because he had the permission from the world of above to begin opening the doors to the secrets of the Torah. Following along the same course we have until now, Rabbi Simeon ben Yochai was having a conversation with a student who asked him a question. The question was, if sexual desires are the root of all evil, why does sexual desire exist? This was a student asking him a question. When we say that sexual desire is the root of all evil, it's because sexual desire and sexuality, which is the reflection of the union of the world of above and the world of below, reflected between men and women. When it is done incorrectly, when it is done in animal fashion, when semen is lost, when semen is mistreated, semen is life, and no intervention of spirituality is in the sexual relationship, God is excluded from the relationship of the union from above and below. It is understood that that is what will generate negative spiritual forces. So, the student asked, if sexual desires are the root of all evil, why do they exist? And Rabbi Simeon ben Yochai answered, sexual desire is not good or bad. It just depends on the spirit with which they're inspired. These feelings can be elevated or extremely low. So the student's question was incorrect. He understood that sexual desire was the root of all evil, but it could also be the root of all good and blessing. Then, he said, as we live in a world of duality, for good to be rewarded, bad has to experience its karma. So, there are those who generate evil with sexual desire and generate a certain karma, and those who generate good with sexual desire and generate rewards. What is the reward of those who use sexual union correctly, the conjugal union? They can bring souls of the just to this world. When a soul of the just comes to this earth, with it come blessings. And if we're not using the sexual relations correctly, these souls of the just are not coming down, the rivers of blessings dry up, crises begin, economic crisis, conjugal crisis, health crisis. So we are in a crisis in the world. Why? Because we don't know how to bring the souls of the just down. That's all. So, in the conjugal union, it is up to us. If we know how to use it with high spirituality, it's up to us to make good or evil come down. It's up to us.
Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai
said, there are 100 million destroying angels. 100 million destroying angels who are willing to take over the prayers of men and women. There are men and women who say, I pray and pray, but I get no response. Why is that? Why do I get no response? Is it that God doesn't hear me? The Zohar says, he who created hearing, hears. So the question is, who stole my prayers? 100 million destroying angels who come to steal your prayers. But he said, anyone who prays with the
tzitzit,
which is the ritual vest with knotted fringes or tassels that hang down, and who prays with the tefillin on, which are the phylacteries worn on the head and on the arms, as you've seen, that prayer is protected and will reach its destination no matter what. We must know how to pray and petition with the tzitzit and the tefillin. For a man who wears tzitzit and tefillin, destroying angels, are powerless. The student then had another question. Is there a prayer that penetrates the heavens and arrives no matter what? The rabbi answered yes. It's called the poor man's prayer. Tefillah le'ani. The poor man's prayer is always heard. Then came the question, what is that? What is the poor man's prayer? You'll see in the prayer books of many synagogues, many books have on their cover, as a title, Tefillah le'ani, the poor man's prayer. And I always pray with that book. That prayer always reaches its destination. And he said, what is the poor man's prayer? The rabbi answered, it's the prayer of Arvit, the evening prayer. There are 3 prayers, that of morning, afternoon, and evening. In Hebrew, we say Shakrit, Mincha, and Arvit. The poor man's prayer is the evening prayer. Why is it called the poor man's prayer? Because it is a prayer that is like a widow. The widow is without her husband. Well, the moon is without the sun. She's alone. There's no sun at night. And that's why it is called poor. The sun is hidden. The prayer prayed at Arvit is called the poor man's prayer. And it's an important one because it will arrive. And why is the poor man's prayer so important? Because at night, there is no energy. And we compensate that with our prayer to bring light. And that work of compensating the lack of light with our prayer has merit, which is rewarded. But he said that there's also a great compensation for those who practice tzedakah for the poor. Tzedakah for the poor means charity for the poor. And Zohar Ha Kadosh says, what does practicing tzedakah mean? Remember, I'm giving you a whole dictionary. So we said that Arvit is the poor man's prayer, the evening prayer. And tzedakah to the poor it's the Shabbat prayer. That is called tzedakah to the poor. Those who observe the Sabbath and say their prayers are practicing tzedakah to the poor. When they say tzedakah tetzel mimavit, that is, tzedakah saves from death, that is the person who is observing Shabbat. Now, something extraordinary happens on Shabbat, and it's something of very deep mysticism. You know, there are souls that go to Gan Eden after this world. There are souls that have to come back to this world for a reparation, Tikkun, karma. And then there are souls that go to a place that is called Genom, which is poorly translated as hell. But it is a place where the soul has to be cleansed before coming back to earth or going to Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. Well, the souls that are performing a rigorous reparation in Genom rest on Shabbat. And the prayers that we pray help them because they are poor in mitzvot, they are poor in law. They did not follow the law. We are helping them then. That is why it is called tzedakah for the poor. It's very beautiful. Anyone who puts on tefillin, the phylacteries of the head and arm, must have the attitude of a poor man, like one who needs mitzvot, halachot. They need to obey laws. They have not yet obeyed all the laws, and they stand before the divine palace. The divine palace is called Echal, and Echal has a gematria value of 65, as does the word Adonai. So, they are standing before the divine palace, and so they have to take an attitude of humility. Echal is written He Yud Chaf Lamed. The He is worth 5, the Yud 10, Chaf 20, Lamed is equivalent to 30. If you add them up, they equal 65. In our prayer, we activate spiritual forces called angels. We activate the force of Chesed, which corresponds to the angel Uriel, who is symbolized by, what is this called? An archetype, which is an eagle. The angel of the Gevurah, that is strength, is called Nuriel. His archetype is a great fire. The prayer of the morning is associated with the angel Michael, whose archetype is a winged lion, a lion with wings. The Micha prayer, that of the afternoon, is associated with the angel Gabriel, whose archetype is a bull. A bull. And it says that on the Shabbat, our prayer is received directly by our Creator, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, blessed be His holy name, who is accompanied by the 3 patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, who received that prayer. So Shabbat is where there is no obstacle on the Sabbath. The Zohar continues, saying that Shabbat can be read with 2 words, Shin and Bat. Bat means the only daughter. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told
Moshe Rabbeinu,
the Creator, told Moses that he has given Shabbat to the people of Israel like a donation, considered a singular jewel. Receiving the Sabbath is a priceless inheritance. Why? Because the Sabbath is considered charity to the poor. It is what saves us from death, from fatality. And it's also a time in which our prayers are not stolen in any way. Well, we live, or our bodies live, in a world called Malchut. Malchut means kingdom. And it says that this world is a world of Tikkun. Tikkun means we come to repair. Many, when they come to repair debt from prior lives, consider that punishment is coming. But that's not really the case. A master of mine once told me, "Do you want to know your tikkun?" I said, "Yes. What is it?" He said, "Do you ever have any uncomfortable moments in your life? Things you don't like to happen to you? That is your tikkun." So, if each of us analyzes the things that happen that we don't like, and they tend to be recurrent, that is their tikkun. That is their reparation. Now, the word Bereshit, and we continue with the secrets of Genesis, of Bereshit. In Aramaic it is read Bereshit. He created 6. What 6 are we talking about? 6 palaces. The palaces have the names of Sefirot, the tree of life. And every Sefirah has a midah, or a virtue, and I will give them to you now. you can mark them off. Palaces 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which correspond to 1 to Chesed, 2 to Gevurah, 3 to Tiferet, 4 to Nesach, 5 to Od, and 6 to Yesod. And now we'll see their midot, that is, their virtues. Chesed, palace 1, corresponds to love. Gevurah, palace 2, corresponds to fear. Palace 3, Tiferet, corresponds to mercy. Palace 4, according to Zohar, it's Netzah, corresponds to prophecy with reverberation. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Palace 5 corresponds to Od, which corresponds to prophecy without reverberation. And Palace 6, Yesod, corresponds to justice. Prophecy with reverberation means that it is a reflection of the Sephirah Chokmah, pure intuition, and without reverberation means that it's a prophecy that can be reasoned, and it is not intuitive. Yesod is justice. The door
to the Shekhinah.
Opens directly to prayers. What is the
Shekhinah?
What is the
Shekhinah?
In literal terms,
Shekhinah
is the physical world, the divine part exiled in a physical world, the divine sparks exiled in this world. Where are these divine sparks hosted in this world? In the procreating element. That is, the semen of man. That's where it is. We have two procreating parts. One is the Word, which procreates angels, spiritual forces. Then the physical procreating part that generates children. And that is why we must care for what comes out of our mouths and what comes out of our genitals. That is where the secret lies regarding our prayers being heard or not. Now then, if you make Shekhinah come to this world, if you open divine sparks in this physical world, you can be sure that no evil spirit will come to steal your prayer. And that is why what we call the Kavanah is so important. Do you know what the Kavanah is? Kavanah comes from the Hebrew word kivun, which means to direct. Direction. In other words, how we direct our minds. How we direct our minds when we speak. How we direct our minds when we procreate. That is Kavanah. How do we direct our minds when we speak? That is, how we direct our minds when we pray. Taking words out of our mouths mechanically without associating them with thought is what is called Lashon Levatala, speaking in vain, speech in vain. If words come out laden with directed thought, then they give their fruit. If words come from our mouths mechanically without being associated with thought, there will be no fruit. It's the same thing if you create or procreate a child with the idea of bringing souls of the just to this world, they will give fruit. If not, anything could come out. It could be chaotic. And here it says something extraordinary. it says that no one can pronounce the name of God and remain alive. And that is extraordinary. Why? Because the power is so great. The name of God has such great power. Human beings are not fit to pronounce His name, and yet we are pronouncing His name dozens of times in prayers of the morning, afternoon, and night. How is that possible? It says, no, when you pronounce the names of God, it's not you pronouncing them. It's God pronouncing them through your mouth. So, prayer is a very serious thing. Why? Because you are allowing Him to pronounce His name through your mouth, which is a source of divine energy from other planes and dimensions in which you will receive blessings of money, health. It all comes from another plane. It's beautiful how the Zohar explains this. And then it explains how man was created in the image of God. What does this mean? That God had man in mind before creating him. He already had Kavanah. What kind of man was He thinking about when He created them? Talking about Adam and Hava. What sort of man and woman had He thought about? He thought of creating a highly spiritual man with great power over all creation. The word thought in Hebrew is machashava. But the Zohar says, don't read it that way. There's a secret to it. The word machashava must be read hashav ma. And what does hashav ma mean? He thought of ma. Ma is mim-he. Its numeric value is 45, just like the name Adam, which is equivalent to 45. Machashava means he thought of man. That man that God thought is a highly spiritual man. Hashav ma. He is a highly spiritual man, and yet man that now lives on earth is not highly spiritual. How could God create a highly spiritual man, and yet the man that we see on earth today is quite the opposite? What happened? Did He get it wrong when He created man? What happened was that this man made a decision. He made a decision to dress himself in a body and descend to this world. But he did not realize that this body in which man has been created, man was created like a spirit, with an intelligence that can control the entire universe and all of the multiverses, all of creation. But he wanted a body. He did not know that that body had its own intelligence. And when he dressed himself in a body, the body overpowered him. And it has an intelligence opposite that of the soul intelligence. So what happened? He made a mistake. What we call the original sin was a mistake. And what was that mistake? It's called incontinence or precipitation. That is, he began to drive a car without a driving license. He began to lodge himself in a body without any methodology to control it, and to make the body serve the soul instead of the soul serve the body. Therefore, we're driving a body without a driving license. That is the original sin. Now, when we're all bad drivers, we're driving a body without knowing the traffic rules for that body. We're constantly running over things, running into things, fighting, making war, being self-centered. Why? Because we don't know the brake pedal from the accelerator, from the clutch. We don't know how to work the steering wheel. We don't know anything. We just drive willy-nilly. We come to this world in a body without knowing how to control it. That is the sin of incontinence. And God said, wait to be mature to lodge yourself in a body. And the man and the woman said no. That was the original sin. And that is the origin of the chaos that all humanity finds itself in. And that is that the man that God thought of creating? Yes. It's as if you create a son and buy them a car. But between the time having a car and being able to drive it, there is a task of learning, and we have not done that task. We did not learn how to drive this body in the Garden of Eden. So, what is redemption? Backing up and going to driving school. We must back up. We must begin to resist. And all the continents that we did not do in Gan Eden, we must do now. And we must learn to drive our bodies. And how does one drive a body so the body does not dominate you? Well, let's look at an example. Let's say we have a rider and a wild horse. How can this be done? If I get on a wild horse, what will happen? It will throw you. It could throw you. It could be a wreck, couldn't it? And yet, there are exhibitions of riders and horses, in Spanish called rejoneo, which are beautiful. Seeing rider and horse work together with hours and hours of practice between the rider and the horse. Have we devoted ourselves to those same hours of practice with our body and soul? No, because instead of an exhibition of rejoneo, we make an exhibition of chaos or a rodeo. So, how can we break the horse? How can we tame the soul within the body? How can we train ourselves to tame our own bodies? Who teaches us to tame our bodies? Mitzvot? Torah? I hear you. The manual, the guidebook, the Torah. We have had it for 3,600 years, the Torah, you know, and we still are in the same chaos or worse, the Kabbalah. Well, what an exam question this is. How can we correct the original sin? Well, with patience. If we did not have patience, then we must have it now. Yes, we've been waiting for 3,600 years. That's more than what you wait in the doctor's waiting room. That's a lot of patience. With mitzvot, the spurs of the rider and the crop of the rider that control the horse, because riders that train horses have spurs and crops and sugar from time to time. The sugar comes later, but not while you're riding. Now listen to what I say. It is meditation on Hebrew letters in the following manner. Meditation on Hebrew letters in the following manner. How does one meditate on Hebrew letters? First, by learning them, one by one. In my book, The Book of Redemption, I explain how to decode each Hebrew letter from Aleph to Tav. Then, we also have the numerical calculation of words we will meditate on, or the names of God we will meditate on, and their correspondence, that is, grammatry. Then, the permutation of letters, called tzeruf. When letters are permutated, new words are attained, which give us new meanings, which make for a leap in the understanding of the unconscious part of the soul. Then, by reading the Zohar, a barcode for the soul, it awakens our subconscious and connects it to our consciousness. All of this work of meditation on Hebrew letters and the study and the effort in the studying of secrets of Torah will all tame this body, which until now was not under control. Now we begin to understand the world a bit better. We wanted a body, have a body, but learn to work with it. And I'll stop here because the meditation will be a bit longer. Let's take a short break and then we'll continue. If you have any questions about what we've just been over, let me know. Well, as for the 6 palaces, are they connected to the 6 dimensions of our materiality? The 6 faces of a cube? Is there an approach to using the 6 palaces or 6 Sefirot to be able to... The 6 Sefirot are interlinked to our soul, life, and body. We work with love, fear, inspiration, justice. It all has to do with us. All the Sefirot are inside us. But that wasn't the question. What was the question? About the cube. Yes. Is there any relationship between them and our handling of materiality? Yes, of course. The midot have to do with the soul. The soul is inside a physical body with 6 faces. It has its volume, its height, width, and depth. So that means that one is north, south, another east, another west, up and down? Yes. How does one work with permutations of letters? Do you work with names of God? No, I'll give you an example. The word pleasure in Hebrew is oneg. Oneg. Ein, nun, gimel. The word depression is nega. Nun, gimel, ein. That is the same letters permuted another way. So you go from good to bad by permutation. So the way you permute determines how you change the meaning of words. And this generates an exercise for what is called the chokmah, the wisdom of the right brain, which is in connection with the Creator. Yes? Another question about meditations. You said that we have to meditate on the letters, not the names of God. Yes, letters, names, permuting them, they're all exercises to train. What we do here is that we're taming the horse, and we have to do this every day. Well, we pray in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night, and another prayer before we go to sleep. It's not just every day, it's 4 times a day. But praying is a meditation. Praying is a meditation. The whole book of prayers is full of meditations on the names of God, full of them. You're tied up all day training your mind. As we share our body with thousands of millions of human beings, and the wild horse that we fear are people like us. It might be closer to spirituality, but we must also tame humanity. How can we achieve that with our meditation, with the model? Let me tell you a story. I've told it in previous classes, but some of you may not have been here. There was an island populated by monkeys. And to that island, some monkey trainers came. And they were there for 6 months, training the monkeys, teaching them tricks, acrobatics, to carry things, circus tricks. And 100 kilometers away, there was another island with monkeys. The same trainers went to that island in a helicopter to the other monkeys. And when they went to train the monkeys, it turned out the monkeys knew how to do all the things that the monkeys of the first island knew how to do. What happened? Thought travels. When there is a group with strong spirituality, it spreads to the rest. Resonance? Yes, resonance. Like a stain. Thought travels, and it's contagious. Good and bad thought. With amplifiers, and with amplifiers even more. The amplifiers are the names of God, with the Hebrew and Angelic alphabets. So we must generate a very positive resonance to spread positivity to the rest. You know, there was once a rabbi from Caracas, and some years ago, over 18 years ago, he came to Caracas, and no one wanted to obey the Torah, any laws, and the people in that community said, look, don't try to force the people here. They don't really like Jewish laws. They like to do their own thing. And that rabbi said one thing. He said, let me ask you a favor. I won't criticize the people here, but let me just ask you one thing. Let me do it right, nothing else. And he started to do it right. And gradually, his environment began to follow him by osmosis until the rest of the community did. If one does it right, it spreads. And in the same way, a rotten apple in a fruit basket ends up making the rest of the fruit rotten. So the good and the bad are contagious. But good prevails over evil, right? I mean, if there is a Rasha and a Sadiq in the same community, what then? Good also counts. And it does prevail, but it must be very good and very pure. Okay, let's take a break. We'll do 2 consecutive meditations without opening our eyes. We'll do one followed by the other. The first meditation will be on the 4 letters you see up here. Vav, Dalet, Aleph, Yud. What is this name? And right below that, we see the same letters, Vav, Dalet, Aleph, Yud, in the language of Metatron, in the celestial language, the celestial alphabet. I want you to know that these letters are authentic, not the ones that you find in general information books, which are all, how can I say it, altered. And where did these come from? These letters come from the authentic manuscript of King Solomon, written in his own hand. Now we will explain how to visualize it. What are these first 4 letters for? Vav, Dalet, Aleph, Yud. These letters were given to Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, for him to leave this physical world and go to another dimension called Gan Eden, where he was given the Torah. In other words, it's a springboard to ascend to the levels of Moshe Rabbeinu. I have my doubts as to whether we're all ready for a voyage like this. That's why I brought the shofar, because with the sound of the shofar, I'm going to cleanse all of your auras before we do this meditation. So it's a springboard to ascend to Gan Eden. Why do we want to ascend to Gan Eden? We want to ascend to Gan Eden to intercede in favor of this world, so that the prophecies that have been announced as the birth pangs of the Mashiach can be softened, can be milder. And we must rise to a very high world to advocate for humanity. That's what we're going to do. So they will ask us in this ascension, on what grounds, with what merit, are we so bold to make this petition? Then, immediately following that, we will meditate on the three letters we see down here. Vav, He, Vav. Here they are. Vav, He, Vav. Vav, He, Vav, and their letters in the celestial alphabet, that of Metatron. And this name, Vav, He, Vav, has the virtue of transporting us to Gan Eden in the state of creation of Adam prior to the sin. That is, before he made that mistake we talked about in class. And that is called the complete teshuvah. That is complete repentance. So, on the grounds of the merit of the name we will meditate on later, we can intercede before the Creator in that dimension called Gan Eden. Have you all understood what we're going to do? Yes. They will ask us, and we'll have to say the second name? No, we have to meditate on it, on the merit of the meditation. Only the merit of the meditation. And we'll show you now. But who asks? You said that they're going to ask us. Who will ask? Two angels will present themselves, one called Metatron and the other Sandalphon. One is the reincarnation or the ascension of Hanoch to Metatron, and the prophet Hanavi, the prophet Elijah, who became Sandalphon. Each transformed in the higher worlds in their ascension, one to Metatron and the other to Sandalphon. The only ones who came to this earth and left this earth without passing through death. Hanoch and
Eliyahu Hanavi,
who became Metatron and Sandalphon. They are the guardians of all petitions, and they are also our allies. They will guide us throughout the meditation. And they are the protectors
of the Mashiach.
They are his guardian angels. The first name you said is to eliminate the birth pangs
of the Mashiach
from coming. It's to ascend to Gan Eden, and there we will ask the prophecies to be softened for the upcoming events in this world. Once we are there, what petition will we make? We will be like advocates, advocating for humanity in that world. This name, Vav Dalet Aleph Yud, where does it come from? From the Kabbalah Mashiah, from the practical Kabbalah at the highest level. Can I ask about the letter Vav? It's round. Is the circle come separately from the bar, or is it part of the bar? It's a bit outside the bar, a bit outside. Does everyone see the letters? Now we have the problem of whether or not we have the capacity to perform this meditation. So before we do it, I'm going to blow the shofar, and I'm going to ask you to meditate. That is, that you direct your minds so the sound of the shofar, which is extremely pure, can purify and sanctify your body and soul. We say purify body, sanctify soul. That is an overall cleansing. And I pray that the shofar will sound good. It's not always so obvious. Okay, that is phase 1. Now on to phase 2, the meditation. I hope you have felt something. If not, we'll have to do it again, because that means it didn't work, but I hope so. Let's put our feet parallel to each other on the floor. Let's put our hands, palms up on your knees in the beggar pose. We will take 3 breaths and exhale deeply 3 times. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Let's begin. We inhale, we hold the air a few seconds, and we exhale. We inhale positive energy, well-being. We exhale all anxiety, anguish, fear, pain, everything out. We inhale sanctity, purity, all that is good, blessings. We exhale all evil eyes, all curses, all out. Again. Now we see ourselves visualized as a column of light inside a Star of David, golden Star of David as big as this room. We project ourselves inside the inner hexagon, and before us there is another Star of David that is golden. It is like a screen. And we are going to begin to call the letters with our eyes closed. We meditate the letter in Hebrew. We open our eyes to visualize the letter as it exists in the celestial alphabet. We call the letter Vav, which presents itself to us in white. We open our eyes and we can see how the letter Vav is designed. We call the letter Dalet. It presents itself in white. And we see how it is written in the celestial alphabet below. We call the letter Aleph. Vav? Aleph. And we see how it is written. And finally, we call the letter Yud. And so we have the 4 letters, Vav, Dalet, Aleph, Yud. Now, each of the Hebrew letters, we will light them as if they were candles. There's a small wick at the top of them. We light them like candles. We light Vav. We light the Dalet. We light the Aleph. We light the Yud. We bring the 4 flames together into one. That comes from the upper tip of the Star of David that works as a screen. And it is attracted to the upper tip of the Star of David where we are lodged. The light goes down through the upper tip of the Star of David, and it goes through our skulls and fills our brains with light. Our brains are illuminated. The light goes down to the heart. The heart is illuminated. It goes down to the liver. The liver is illuminated. It goes up to the heart. The heart is illuminated. It goes up to the brain. The brain is illuminated. We have all 3 organs totally illuminated. Now, we are a column of light that is in the dimension of Gan Eden, and before us, the archangels Metatron and Sandalphon present themselves with their great power over all forces that rule the earth. And we begin our dialogue, and we tell them that we request a reprieve of the circumstances and events for humanity on earth, and that the tests that must be passed be completely watered down, so to speak, that they be easy. They ask us, based on what grounds and on what merit do we ask this? Now we meditate the letter Vav. On another Star of David, we illuminate it, and we look at the letter from below. The letter He, we illuminate it. The letter Vav, we illuminate it. Then we become the ambassadors of humanity, but on the basis of the merit of complete teshuvah, complete repentance, and returning to the level of creation of Adam prior to the sin, and for the merit of doing this work, we petition them for mercy for this entire world. And now we establish a dialogue between each of us and the angels Metatron and Sandalphon, and each of us has a private dialogue with them. And now I'll let you continue these conversations. We say farewell, giving thanks for having received us with great respect. And we commend ourselves to angels Metatron and Sandalphon to take our petition to the Creator, God of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And we return to our seats, where we begin to breathe deeply to return to our bodies. Inhale, exhale, and we begin to feel the heaviness of our bodies. We inhale, exhale, we inhale, exhale. We exhale, and we open our eyes. How was it? Do you feel all right? Yes? Well, first they told me, we can't believe you've reached this level, this dimension, because since Moshe Rabbeinu, no one has gone there. Then they told me, we can't believe that you have shown so much love for humanity, all coming here to advocate for humanity. And of course, we approve your petition. Amen, amen, amen. So, let's close the class here.